Hey guys, it's Megan Aller, account executive with First American Title here in Denver, Colorado. This week we're going to be discussing the odds of selling. Now, Ninja Sales is a very big sales program that a lot of folks end up following when they're trying to organize their database and maintaining their relationship. For those of you that have been through a Ninja installation, one of the numbers that they talk about with you is the odds of selling. What the odds of selling basically tells me is that out of the total pool of potential listings that are available in the market, what percentage of those result in a contract and a closing versus those that hang out in the market for an additional month or ultimately end up expiring. So this is a great way to track how many transactions are actually closing in a given month based off of the listing pool. Now, when we're looking at the odds of selling, there's a very seasonal pattern that comes along with it. When we look at the seasonal pattern, typically what happens is the odds of selling are highest as we look at February, March, April, and May, when our listing count is low and our buyer pool is very active, versus looking at those summer months where we have a higher pool of listings and fewer buyers that are looking in the market. So when we look at this historically, prior to 2013, our average odds of selling ended up staying somewhere between 23 to 35% on any given month that a home would result in a closing for that particular month. Okay, that doesn't mean the total odds of it selling. That means that during that particular month. So if a property sat on the market for another month, that meant that it didn't go under contract in that first month, and so it was a little bit lower. Now fast forward to from 2013 and on, and our peak months, we've been hitting around 60 to 65% odds of selling. So at this point in the market, it's still 2 to 3 times better to list and sell your home now with a higher odds of selling than what we had prior during the recession. So looking at it now currently, and this number is for March, we're looking at about 60.1% for your odds of selling. Now going into April and May, that number starts to come down a little bit, but that's only because our inventory starts to rise. These are still very good odds of selling. Now as you continue to look at this going into July, notice that by the time that we hit July, there's probably about a 10 to a 15% drop from where we are in those early spring months in the odds of selling. And so what does that mean for your sellers? That means that if you want to take advantage of the largest pool of potential buyers and have the highest likelihood of selling your house, you really need to be in the market earlier, March, April, May. Now, if you're listing your home and selling it in June, July, or August, it's still not bad. The market's still incredibly good, but you might hang out on the market for a little bit longer. And you also have to take that into consideration as you're pricing those properties. Now, the lowest odds of selling happens to be in September. So if you are faced with listing your home going into August or September, unfortunately what happens at that point is that you are tasked. It is more difficult to get your home under contract during those months because listings are at a peak while your buyer pool is really starting to taper off. Now, as we go into October and November, there's actually an interesting pop that happens every year at month end because our inventory drops below a certain point while our buyer pool doesn't taper off quite as much. And so it actually increases your odds of selling over where you are in September. But traditionally, September is typically our lowest odds of selling. Same thing happens as we're looking at attached single family homes. That market has just been absolutely on fire. Historically, at the peak months, we're somewhere between 55 to 60% odds of selling. We're still right on pace with where that was for previous years, so the market is still very good. It's a couple percentage points low, but it's nothing to be concerned about. Usually looking at April, May, and June, those are your highest odds of selling, and much like what we see in the detached market, that odds of selling drops down to 53% in September. Still not bad, but not as good as if you would have chosen to list in March, April, or May. So take that in mind. Thanks, as always, for tuning in to this weekly market update. Wednesdays at 10 o'clock is when you should see these in your inbox. If you'd like to get a copy of the slide deck, I'm certainly happy to share that with you. I also take everything and I pare it down by price ranges for you because there are markets within markets, so you might find that information interesting. If you'd like to get a copy, feel free and reach out to email me or give me a call. I certainly hope if we're able to help you better advise your buyers and sellers that we'll get to meet them at our closing tables at First American. We'll see you guys soon.